Today, we'll explore what it's like to live the life of an origami artist with Aditi Anuj. While we'll be talking about the work today, I would strongly suggest that you go back and watch the previous episode to my interview with Aditi to know the person behind the work. On Everything Comes Together, I speak with people in the broader photography, architecture, and design communities, while the regular episodes are life stories that talk about how everything came together. Every now and then, I will speak to guests and explore just one thing. On this episode, Aditi talks about the variety of materials she works with to create her beautiful work, a big break working on a massive installation for a high-profile car launch, and the importance of teamwork simply to get her work on display. I just wanted to let you know that the Everything Comes Together podcast has a new home online. At everythingcomestogether.com, you can watch full episodes to get the whole story, or you can watch a treasure trove of playlists. On these playlists, a variety of creators from across the country present their experiences and opinions on a set of topics to give you a complete understanding of the work you love. Find out more at everythingcomestogether.com. So, what are all the various materials that you use for what you do?
I use leather, I use paper, metal, and polypropylene.
So there itself, there are a whole bunch of misconceptions that are thrown out of the window, right? Where origami is always associated purely with paper, because obviously that's probably where it came from. But then that doesn't mean it needs to remain there.
Exactly,
right?
Exactly. It can be so much more. You can. So the whole challenge of origami is, and this is something that all my clients ask me, how do I make it survive longer? So that was the biggest challenge that was there. Paper doesn't last very long. It's not easy to clean paper.
Yeah.
It doesn't last long. It doesn't last. It doesn't like moisture, which most of the India has. You can't really help it. We don't have centrally air conditioned houses where we can control the climate. Where we could control these things. So that was the biggest challenge, and that is something that I learned when I was working with Ankan. I learned two major things from him. One was how to make origami last longer, and two, how to make money out of it. Two very important things.
Absolutely.
So, and I think he is the only one in India who has actually cracked it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, through Instagram, I know so many people here in India who are very good at origami, who do origami as a full-time job, but they haven't been able to crack these two things, which he did. So that's when different materials come into the picture. You know? How do you not use paper, still do origami, and make it last longer? So that's when we started folding leather, we started folding and making lamps out of it. Leather has such beautiful effect with light. When it interacts with light, it is just gorgeous to look at. So that's why we use leather, we use polypropylene.
Okay.
And I've now started using fabric. Then if there are outdoor projects that one has to do where it's basically an entire architectural structure standing in the middle, exposed to all the weather conditions, then we started using metal, which is very difficult to work with, but you can fold metal, and we did it. So yeah, I mean, like I said, you have to love something so much, and you will make ways. You will find
ways to make it happen.
You just have to love it enough.
Yeah. You know, you just touched upon something that I was very interested in. You touched upon it very briefly, which was hanging up a heavy installation, right? No one connects paper with being heavy, but obviously it really is. And as you said, not all the works that you do are in paper. Metal is obviously going to be very heavy, and so will fabric and textiles. So what is your process like, just simply to fit the installation in place, to install it wherever it's being used? Is that a very complicated process? Does your design process also affect how it's installed?
Yes, so the main factors of when we're designing something like that of that scale is the most important point is budget. What is the budget of the entire process? Because that decides, that makes us understand how much time can we give in this project, how many people can we hire
Yeah.
for this project, what material can we use for this project, and yeah, the three major things that we need is it all depends on the budget and of course on the space. So
Yeah.
if we have limited time, but if we have a bigger project to work on, then we would need that many more people, and that much more money we will have to
Right.
spend on these people to give them, right? Um,
Yeah.
so if we have like a big project which has to be hung, then you have to do a lot of reverse calculations, where how much time will we need to hang the piece, how many people will we need for the installation, and what kind of material will
Yeah.
we be using, because it also depends on what kind of arrangements do we have in that space, how can we hang it. We need very strong hooks to be available where
Yeah.
we need to hang it. So if we have good enough hooks, then we can precisely use any material. But out of all the materials that we use, paper is the lightest, but that doesn't mean that paper is light. Paper is very, very heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, we have made installations that were 250 kgs, and we managed to hang them to four hooks.
Wow.
So yeah, but then of course polypropylene gets heavier, and so does leather. Leather is very expensive. You can't even afford a leather installation, like a full-on
Yeah.
leather installation. But yeah, polypropylene is even more heavier than paper. So these kind of things you need to understand when you look at a space, when you go for your reiki of the space. So you make these
Yeah.
notes, give these notes to yourself of the arrangement. Then of course the budget, and I would say making of an artwork is only 50% of the of the work. 50% is when you actually there hanging that artwork to the ceiling, because that's when a lot of, not just hanging but installing any artwork is 50%
Yeah.
of the work. It can be hanging 4,000 birds to the ceiling, which I did for a project, which I did for a wedding in Chennai. 4,000 birds,
4,000.
4,000 cranes done in one night.
Wow.
And it was not easy to hang those birds. I mean, to to coordinate with so many people who were involved in the hanging process, and how to hang them, and how far should they be from each other, how, what is the height of the bird to the ceiling, everything had to be, uh, kept in mind while designing that artwork and while hanging the
Yeah.
installation. So yeah, I would say it is not easy to install anything, actually, not just origami, but to have that kind of a vision and to make it possible, you really need a lot of patience for it.
I can imagine.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, 50% of the work happens after you've made the artwork, and when you're on site, when you're installing it, when you have to make last minute changes, when when you're trying to lift an artwork and your ropes are burning because the artwork is so heavy and the rope is not able to take the weight, then you have to change the entire roping of the artwork. So yeah, those kind of decisions have to be made last minute, and you can never imagine those kind of problems, but they do happen. That's why I say,
Yeah. So I guess when you have limited time in a different city, it's a lot about the pre-planning.
yes, you have limited time. Yes, you have limited time. You have limited time. You have limited resources. I mean, so the artwork that I'm talking about, where the artwork was 250 kgs, the sculpture was 250 kgs, and we took these ropes from Delhi, thinking that these ropes would be enough, but sadly they weren't. We had only 2 days to install the artwork, and we took a weekend. We chose a weekend to install it, and because the ropes were not working, we had to buy a new set of
Lovely.
ropes, and that day was a Sunday, and the entire Mumbai was shut. I was running around in the city in a cab looking for ropes, but I couldn't find the kind of ropes that I wanted because the entire Crawford market was shut. The entire where the hardcore hardware stuff you find in Mumbai was shut. So we had to stay back for another day. Monday morning, I went to the shops, bought the new rope, and that's how we were able to install it. We bought pulleys. All these last minute changes had to be done. We bought small pulleys, hung the pulleys on the hooks so that pulling the artwork becomes slightly easier on the rope.
Oh, so it seems like every single installation is so different, right?
Every single installation has some challenge.
Yeah.
Has some. You would sit here and feel, this is easy.
Yeah.
This is. I mean, I made a hexagon. A huge hexagon had to be made, which was around 5 feet diameter of the hexagon.
Yeah.
So they wanted an artwork, and then they wanted a board behind it, and then they wanted it to be framed. So my work was done in one day. When I was done, not in one day, but in a week. So my artwork was done in a week. But the bigger challenge was to stick that artwork to plywood. Now the plywood had to be of a certain thickness because otherwise it wouldn't be straight because it was of that scale.
Yeah.
So it had to be of a certain thickness. And once that was done, we realized that the artwork is so heavy. It was so heavy. I mean, imagine.
Yeah.
Almost two full-size plywoods went in the making of that hexagon.
Yeah.
And then it had to be framed. So finding that size of glass was a challenge.
Yeah. And the glass weighs a ton as well.
Yeah, finding that size of glass, then cutting it, getting it cut into a hexagon, framing the artwork, and then the story doesn't end there. It had to be couriered to Bangalore. So I don't know how the client managed. I was like, I cannot take the load of getting it couriered. I can handle it till the framing part.
Yeah.
My God, the glass itself was for 20,000. The glass. So you will think if this is easy. Like making that hexagon was so easy.
Yeah.
But compared to the other things that followed it, my God. So no project is ever easy.
You're talking about a 5-foot diameter hexagon. I made a 5-foot panoramic print, which was hanging above my desk in my office. And that print, it just looks like a very simple print because it's a very simple picture on it. But it's big, right? And once we got it framed, and you can't use a sort of plastic frame, which is what most frames are, because it's so big, plastic will just flex. So it needed to have
Exactly.
It needed to have the hardwood backing, and it needed to have a hardwood frame, and then it needed to have proper glass in it. So the whole thing weighed about 20 kilos, and it was just one single.
I totally understand.
Yeah. So then when you hang it up, how many nails do you put in the wall to hold up that frame? So
that's exactly what I'm saying. You would feel that it's that's easy, but making an artwork is only 50% of the work. 50% is taking it there and installing it. But it is so exciting. I feel the joy that you get after you're done with the work and you sit back, relax, and look at it. It's the most rewarding thing in the world, I would say.
So now that we've talked about one of the big highs, which is how you got your work on Sacred Games, which reached a very wide audience. We also have to talk about something that everyone faces, which is a very challenging situation. And how you actually managed to pull out another big project and a big artwork from another set of challenging situations that came about, which is your involvement with the Lexus Car Launch. So could you talk a little bit about that?
So Lexus Car Launch happened while I was going to undergo a knee surgery. I had a broken ACL and I was supposed to go for a surgery. But that did not happen because of a fire that break out in my house. And it just so happened that because the surgery was not happening and uh, I was free during that time, and this project
Yeah.
happened and Ankan needed some help again for he wanted more people to come and help him for the making of the artwork and installing it. And I happened to be right there in Delhi, so that's when I jumped into this project. And not knowing the scale of it, not knowing the client, I just started
Yeah.
working on this project. We had very limited days to complete it. We had only 2 days to finish. Almost 20 feet sculpture had to be made. So
Wow.
I mean, I worked for those 2 days, day and night, to finish it. And because we had limited time, we couldn't even get the sheets die cut. So they had to be manually scored. Every sheet was manually scored. And there were around 1,050
Wow.
sheets that had to be scored. So 2 days, I was just scoring the sheets and folding them at the same time. We had two other people, uh, and then we had to go and install the artwork at the main venue, which was uh, a hotel, a five-star hotel in Delhi itself. So
Right.
the entire installation, this was the first time that I was installing or witnessing an installation for the of that scale. So it was really
Yeah.
exciting for me, and at the same time nerve wracking for me to do it, because I had no idea how he was going to Ankan, my teacher, that in this case,
Yeah.
how he's going to hang the whole artwork to. There was a truss that was provided to us, and we had
Okay.
to hang the whole artwork to the truss. So it was very exciting how we opened the artwork, roped the artwork, then decided, kept it under the truss to sort of get an idea of how we're going to start lifting it. Because the whole piece has to be lifted up at once. So there were multiple people holding it from all four sides. So there were around 10 of us holding the ropes from all four sides. And then it's like a symphony, when he started when he starts
Yeah.
counting, and you literally start lifting up the ropes and the artwork dhire dhire goes up. It's like magic. And even when it's in the middle of
Yeah.
the air, it's in the middle. It makes it has these different forms that it's constantly making, and you want to freeze that as it is. It is very difficult to sort of make um, uh, that last minute decision, because it's already up there, but you're not really liking the form. So how do you loosen a few ropes and tighten a few others to sort of create the form
Yeah.
that you want to make, with the, of course, the limitations that you have, is something that I experienced during that time. And it was very exciting, I would say. And we had only one night to install it, because their event was going to start at 10 o'clock the next day. So the
Yeah.
entire
Yeah.
night we had to give in for the installation part. And
Yeah.
yeah, that was very interesting. I learned a lot from that project, a lot. Not just
Especially that sort of an installation, as you were saying that in like in some places you string up the your work is fitted up in hooks, right?
yes,
But here if you're in a hotel ballroom, you're not allowed to drill anything
no,
anywhere,
that is why there was a
right?
truss. So
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a pretty, and I've seen that was another one that I had seen was the photo of the car with the work hanging above it, and
yes,
it's
it was magical.
longer than
It
the
was
car, it seemed
magical. I
like.
mean, it was magical. It was
Yeah.
magical. I mean, I remember after installing that artwork, we were sitting on the chairs. They were putting up the chairs because it was 8 o'clock in the morning and they had to start getting ready for the event. So we were just lying on the chair and looking at the artwork. And I remember telling my team, "My God, I did not imagine it to be so beautiful." and but we were just so proud of the entire process and being able to do justice to not the
Yeah.
car, but also the entire feel of the space was so rewarding, I would say. And that project was a very big breaking point, a very big
Break.
turning
Yeah.
point for me as well as for Ankan.
Yeah.
And after that, he was invited to different binales. Actually, he was invited to a binale in Shanghai.
Okay.
Then he was invited to a binale in Lucca in Italy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that project was a very big turning point for both of us.
So obviously, like you said, when you're doing an installation, you have a lot of people. You're obviously not going to be able to hang 4,000 birds in one night by yourself. So do you work with a very big team, or is the team based on the kind of projects you're working on?
Yeah, the team is based. I'm a solo artist.
Okay.
But if we get a project which requires more than one person, then I have people who are willing to work with me, to collaborate with me, and that's when we do the projects together. So from the making, planning, installing, all of it, these my team comes together and we work on it. But otherwise, it really depends from project to project. I mean, if there's something that I can work on my own, then I would want to work on it on my own and not involve too many people.
Yeah.
And I also, how I project myself for future also, I don't really ever want to have a team. Maybe I will.
Yeah.
The next month itself, but right now, how I project myself is, I always want to be free.
Yeah.
You know, I always want to have that kind of freedom where I can get off the bus whenever I want to, and I've always been like that, not just today, but always.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would not say that's a good thing, because that stops me from committing to people, to projects, to what I do. But at the same time, it also gives me freedom to try new things, to have new experiences in life,
Yeah.
and to have the freedom to let go of things and welcome new ones. So that's why I don't project a team as of now. But if I ever feel the need that I am getting enough projects where I'm not able to keep up on my own,
Yeah.
then maybe I will have it. But I've been lucky enough to find the right team. And even if I'm like really short on people and I don't have enough people, I have found people on Instagram who wanted to help me. I made a story on Instagram where when I asked people to come help me, and I was in Delhi. And if anyone is in Delhi free and is wanting to fold, please come help me. It's a paid project, and
People showed up.
I found people. Yeah. So I had 4 internees who came actually. One came from Meerut. So I told him, you come, stay with me, have food for 4 days. I don't mind as long as you're working with me. So yeah, he came. So thankfully, I've been able to find people, because there are a lot of people out there who are interested in folding, but have not been able to find ways to do it professionally.
Yeah.
Or to commercialize it.
Well, that's our show for this week. You can find links to get in touch with my guests in the episode description below on YouTube, or if you're listening to the audio podcast, just swipe or tap over the cover art. You can watch other full episodes and curated playlists at everythingcomestogether.com. Please subscribe to Sreenag Pictures on YouTube, or you can listen to the audio podcast by subscribing to Everything Comes Together on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and leave a 5-star review. If you like this episode, please tell a friend about it and help get the word out about this show. The music for this podcast was composed by Aashray Harishankar from Escapist Music, post-production by Thiruvikraman Srinivasaraghavan, and production assistance by Abdul Jeelani. Until we meet again with another fascinating guest, you can reach me on Instagram @Sreenag or at everythingcomestogether.com. Have a good day.